This is amazing to me. This is really amazing to me.
Well, welcome, Dreamer.
Good to be here.
I am delighted to see you, and thank you very, very much for offering a dream for us to look at today. I'll start by saying, tell us a couple of things about yourself so we can know a couple of things.
Uh, I'm retired from a human resource position. I was a human resource consultant and professional. I am 79 years old and beginning to realize that age does make a difference in my life. I'm married. I live with my husband and a bunch of cats, and we're downsizing to move.
Oh, it's an exciting transition time.
It is. It really is a very, very big transition time.
All right. Please tell me your dream.
I'm recently divorced. I don't know anyone, and I'm very alone. I start going to a large church, very large church, and I learned that the entire congregation is invited to an annual Christmas party at the home of one of Jackson's most legendary and wealthy social leaders. My cousin Joey and her husband go there to that church, and they encourage me to go to the party. They say they will take me. They do. When we get there, they walk off to visit and leave me alone in this huge house with hundreds of strangers. They're bunches of small, intimate groups of friends, but I know no one and can't walk up to a group because I wouldn't know what to say. I walked from room to room, trying to be inconspicuous but friendly and speak to everyone. They politely ignore me. I see a woman my age sitting alone on a couch, and so I go over and I sit by her. We visit for a long time, and I feel better. And then she gets up, excuses herself, and leaves me alone. I walk around again from room to room. Finally see a group of people that includes my cousins. So I walk up and stand in that group. There is a couple there that I've met before, and I really, really like both of them. They're so nice. The guy's telling jokes, and everyone is hearing them and enjoying them. Some others tell a joke, and everybody laughs. I recall hearing a really, really cute joke, so I start telling it. Just when I get to the punchline, the husband of the couple I like so much slams his hand over my mouth and says, I know that joke, I know that punchline. And he starts pulling, dragging me away from the small group into the middle of the huge crowd of people. I'm stunned and shocked. He says, the punchline is something, right? It is so shocking and filthy that all I can do is just sort of nod my head. He immediately leaves. I just stand there. I wake up.
Dreamer.
Dreamer.
Wow. I'm so eager to get started on this. I'm so eager to get started. All right. I'm going to start asking you some things. And the first thing I heard, Dreamer, is I am divorced.
Yes.
Okay. Now, a minute ago in your introduction to us, you are anything but divorced.
Right.
What does divorce mean or divorced?
Ooh. Separated, alone, somewhat alienated, I think. Ostracized in a funny way. Yeah. Ostracized. not knowing what to do. By that, I say not knowing what to do with my life. My role in life has changed.
That being said, the word divorce is, we think of it in terms of ending a marriage. But of course, we can apply the word divorce to a separation of any kind from anything. I mean, we can divorce ourselves from a good friend. We can divorce ourselves from a terrible job. So you are not divorced in the marital sense. Can you think of any other way that you may be divorced, or is there a feeling of separation or alienation, or in any sphere of your life, inner or outer?
Of course, I think somewhat maybe I'm divorced from youth. That's age is one thing. I mean, I'm feeling my age, I guess you could say. We've had lots of health problems over the last year and a half. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe that sense. I did divorce my family,
Okay.
which is sort of a strange thing.
Okay.
But I actually walked out on my patio, and not all of them, but I don't have a very large family. But I divorced my peripheral family, I guess you
Okay.
could say, not my immediate family, not my children or my grandchildren,
Uh,
but cousins. I was an only child, so I all that I except for one cousin
mhm, mhm.
I've
Yeah.
divorced.
Okay. So these are like, how would we put it? Peer relations, like
Not
close.
peer, no, not
No.
peer
Okay.
relations. The
Okay.
my children's peer,
Okay. Okay. All right. So,
like
mhm.
down the first cousin's first removed level.
Right. Okay. Got it. Okay. So I think the word that you indicated was peripheral, and I wish I knew how to spell that. Um,
Don't ask me.
we're going to pretend it's that, but I don't think that's right. But anyway, so
Sounds good to me.
we get the feeling of that. It's not your nuclear family. It's not the grandchildren. It's these sideways relations, if you will.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Happens in a lot of families, you know.
Oh, I know.
Any
Not
place
mine.
else that you might be divorced or feeling separated. Let's put our thumb over the word divorce and look at these words. Or where do you feel alone? Where do you feel alienated? Where do you feel separated?
Not really anywhere.
Okay.
Not anywhere else.
Okay. These are very important. So let's hang on to that. All right. I am divorced. That was the first sentence, I believe, of the dream. What comes next?
I start going to I'm not sure if I join the church, but I go to a big church, big congregation, big buildings, big church. Emphasis on big.
And what does big church mean?
I've never been comfortable in big churches. I've always been most comfortable in smaller congregations and smaller churches.
Okay.
But that may be because that's what I was used to. That's always been my history. Always gone to church, but never lived anywhere where there was a big church, except here.
All right. Now that we have that piece of information, which is the very second element in the dream,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to propose that this may be an inner problem. Do you feel, is there anything where you feel divorced from an inner spiritual life?
Not an inner spiritual life. I think I'm transitioning into a broader, ooh, that hit me, a broader, bigger spiritual life, more encompassing.
Okay. So that's the other side of this is
Yeah.
going from here to here to a bigger
outlook,
bigger outlook. Okay, I love this. Okay.
broader spirituality.
Yep. Okay. Ooh.
Ooh's right.
Uh, I love dreams, don't you? All right. So you in the dream you are attending a big church, a bigger spiritual outlook, a broader spirituality. Fabulous. All right. And what happens then?
Somehow, I did not receive an invitation as such, but somehow I find out that there's a woman there that has an annual Christmas party.
Okay.
Not just for the church. I think she just has this gigantic party, and everybody in the congregation or anybody anywhere can go. I don't know. I just am made aware of that, I assume, through my cousins.
Okay.
Because they are the ones that said I needed to go.
Okay. We got a couple of things going on here. Number one is this unknown woman, right? And right. I think you described her as a socially important person, or how did you describe her?
She is legendary, wealthy social leader.
You don't have to name names, but did you recognize her?
No, but I have in the dream, no, but I know there is someone that does that periodically. That I know, yeah,
we know her.
We know her. I don't know her personally, but I know of her well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's that giant Christmas party. Okay. Any thoughts about that before I launch into what I think?
Well, Christmas is the birth of Christ. It is the holiday for Christians. It is also highly spiritual in my tradition, which is Episcopalian. We have Advent. We build up to Christmas. It's a time of reflection, prayer, and growth, or supposed to be, which is a little bit different than the giant Christmas party.
Okay. What about, may take up more room here. What about party?
Party, fun, celebrating, happy, gathering of new and old friends. Love a good party.
All right.
Used to do a lot of them.
Okay.
And loved it.
So I'm going to take a teaching moment here, a teaching moment, and talk about both of these as an inner spiritual something. And I'm hasten to add, and I think since you mentioned a moment ago that you are looking at a bigger outlook and a broader spirituality, I hope that this is okay with you, but I hasten to add that our dreams speak to us in the language that we understand, the language of our culture and our upbringing and in this case, our spiritual orientation. And these concepts, though, it is possible to apply them universally with slightly different language. And here's what I mean by that. Okay. Christmas, as you indicated, was the birth of Christ. Another way to say that in our tradition is it's the feast of the incarnation. And incarnation meaning to put flesh on the divine. And so this concept of the divine being incarnated is universal. Mm-hmm. We go to, if we went to Hinduism, if we went to any other tradition around the world through time, there's this idea of the incarnation of the divine. Yes. It's not just for us Christians. So we're thinking about the incarnation of the divine here. And the concept of party also is so energizing for me, and it sounds like it is for you as well, to be invited to the parties, dinner parties, festive occasion parties, wedding receptions, even small, intimate cocktail parties are reflections of what we might call the heavenly banquet. And that is to say, like you mentioned the word gathering and old and new friends, that is to say, if we think about this in an interior way, it is an invitation to bring all the parts of ourselves which live within us together to make the whole. Our parts of ourselves we haven't seen in a long time, parts of ourselves that are coming into being, parts of ourselves that maybe we don't even like, but they're all invited to the party. It's a reflection of everything coming together to make a whole. What is so exciting about this imagery in your dream is how big it is. It is a giant Christmas party. And you get invited to participate in the talk about a bigger, broader spirituality. It's giant. It's over the top. When we have this over the top imagery, it's meant to grab our attention big time. Okay. So does any of that hit with you? Does any of that make sense? Okay.
Absolutely. All of it does.
Okay.
Never thought of it as this is like light bulbs.
Oh, okay. So, and I just want to reiterate one more time. If you were a Hindu, this would show up differently. This would be the birth of Krishna or some other this can be applied universally. It just happens to be speaking in the language that we can relate to best. So, okay.
Which is part of what I was saying. My spirituality right now is changing into that broader outlook, it's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's what I believe now more than.
Let me ask you this. When did you have the dream?
A couple of months ago.
Okay.
It's been a couple of months now. It's one of these strange things I didn't know what to do with. I didn't even write it down at first because it was just sort of a strange thing.
May I suggest that you write down all of your dreams, please, dreamer?
I know.
So, all right, let's carry on. One last thing I want to say about this. It's really interesting when we have a Christmas dream any other time of the year. Like if you had it a couple of months ago, that was midsummer and you had a Christmas dream. That's another attention getter. Is we're really looking at the incarnation of the divine in you. All right, now this woman who is the legendary wealthy socialite that my guess is anybody watching this could immediately pull up somebody in their life that's that. But tell me a little bit more about what you associate with this.
Probably who I was supposed to be when I grew up.
Okay.
That was a hope push for me. That was the message that I was supposed to grow up to be.
Okay. And so that's the message from family, from the culture?
I think from my family, whole family, and at least from yeah, I think it's a family expectation, generation.
Uh-huh. And am I hearing you chose otherwise?
I have to say, after years of struggling with this, I don't think, no, it was not a choice. It was acceptance
Hmm.
that I could not be that. I've always said my influence was my mother's family, my maternal family, but I was that second generation New York State Yankee from my grandmother, my other grandmother.
So
I was my daddy's child, my great grandmother's child. I mean, my grandmother's child, my northern, not my mother's
mhm.
grandmother, but my father's mother's. That's who I am.
Yes.
That was always a conflict
Oh, that's right.
in me.
Yes. Therefore, may I suggest that this is your shadow?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, big shadow.
This is a great definition of a shadow. That the expectations that are put on us, or our choices, whether they're conscious or unconscious, of who we are going to be and who we are not going to be, occur throughout our lifetime. And when we either choose or just don't become a certain thing, it falls into the shadow. That doesn't mean we can't be a little bit of this. As you indicated earlier, you used to do the fun Christmas parties, maybe not the lavish way a legendary wealthy socialite would, but there's a little piece of that in there. But this is bigger than a lady giving a big Christmas party. This is big expectations around these people who loom large our entire lives. Just
I never
because,
even, I discounted that whole woman. She was just around in my dream. I didn't even realize this.
oh, she is the hostess of the party. She's given the party. So, that's the call to all of it. Okay. I want to keep going. Okay. All right. So oh, cousin.
Yeah.
Cousin. Which cousin?
My first cousin, I call
Okay.
her Joey.
That's her name? Seriously?
No, that's not her real name.
Okay. And what made you choose this name for her today?
She's the only female. She's my closest living female relative. Somebody I talk to. She calls me every day. Somebody that is, her life has been drastically altered. She has moved into an assisted living situation, which has been tragic for her.
What made you call her that?
Because that's who she's always been. That is, if anybody describes her anyway, it would be that. That's why I think, because it hit me immediately. That's who she's always been. She is the most positive, happy, outgoing, loving, kind, spiritual, mothering, understanding person I know. And everybody that knows her will say that about her. I have never heard, nor will I ever hear anything negative about her.
And that's what invited you to the party.
Yeah, that insisted I go. She just wanted me to. I said, I'm not going. And she said, well, you come, we'll pick you up. Come with us. She and her husband. So that's who took me to the party, was she and her husband. Insisted I go to the party because I had no
Okay.
intention of going to the party.
So she has all of these qualities.
Mhm.
Her name is Joy. Joy, not not a person named Joy. Joy itself has invited you to the party.
Mhm. And
Joy,
her real name would be the same thing.
okay. And but Joy itself, Joy has asked you to come to the party, not that human, but
Mhm. Yeah.
Joy itself or
Mhm.
happiness has invited you to go to the party. Uh, Kindness has invited you to go to the party. These are, again, this is a shadow aspect, but it is the brightest shadow I have ever heard. So two bright shadows have shown up now. This one and this one. These are, you know, bright shadows. And what do I mean by a bright shadow? I mean the very best within ourselves, the very best expression of ourselves that sometimes we don't live into all the way, but is there. It is there. And that is a bright shadow. Our dark shadow has to do with parts of ourselves that we don't want to admit we have. We have judged them. Ego has judged them as wrong or shameful or unacceptable. But our bright shadow is the best we could possibly be. And often ego doesn't believe we can be these things. But we do have the potential for being all of it, all of it. So this is very exciting. Joy itself, this bright shadow, has insisted you go to the heavenly banquet. Well, how's this feeling to you?
Very, very positive feeling, but also thinking about it, true of the reality too of the person.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
It's a both and.
Yes.
Very much
Yes.
a both and for me.
Yes. She really
Surprise.
is these things. And she represents these things in you. You're right. It's a both and. Okay. And it's interesting that she and husband, because when couples show up together, it speaks to the union of the opposites. It speaks to wholeness, the male and the female, the nurturing and the active. It speaks to, so wholeness, if you will, if you want to put it that way, wholeness with all of this on it has invited you to the heavenly banquet. Oh boy.
Okay. Oh boy.
So this is another example, I think, of a numinous dream. And what I mean by a numinous dream is one that is bigger and transcendent of everyday concerns. Many of our dreams comment on everyday concerns or comment on immediate situations. Once in a while, though, we'll have a numinous dream that is really calling us into a very deep, very transcendent place. And I think this has the marks of a numinous dream. What do you think?
I think you're right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So now what happens?
Well, I go and we get there and they take off. The two
Yes.
of them take off to visit, I guess. And I'm standing there totally alone with all these people in this gigantic house, and I don't know anybody, and I just kind of walk around trying to, I can't just stand there. So I walk around from room to room, and there are people and there are little groups of people, but I don't know them and I don't fit in them into their groups. And I don't know what to do. I'm scared to walk up to a group where I don't know anybody and start talking to them. So I just wander from room to room to room for a long period of time.
All right. So here's something for us to talk about real fast. And that is a setting of a dream is a place in psyche.
Right.
A setting of a dream is a place in psyche. And we've moved from a church or a reference to a church to this giant house, which, again, many rooms, lots of places in psyche. Again, there are Christian references to my father's house has many mansions, and the great mystic Teresa of Avila talks about interior castles and exploring one's interior room by room. And this gigantic house is a place in you heretofore unexplored, unrecognized, never been there before, but it's in you. What I'm hearing you say is it feels strange.
Yeah, alien.
And there's a sense of being
Scared.
alone.
And scared.
So you have to ask yourself at this point, and there are tons of people in here, right?
Oh, yeah. Lots and lots of people. Yeah, hundreds of people are in that house, just everywhere in little groups.
All right. So here's also what's true. There are depths to us that are almost infinite. I mean, there are depths of ourselves and this current life that we're living, but there's also built into us the DNA, if you will, of all of our ancestors. There are that have left a mark on who we are this day, who we are, how we are living, and who we are. So we can think about this dream as the aspects of yourself, some of which will never be known by ego, the I in the dream, but they're gathered here in this psyche of yours. And the task at hand is, it seems to me, that the action of the dream indicates that the task at hand is at least to try and connect with some of it. At least to try to connect on some of these inner aspects of yourself that so far have not been met, have not been related to. But it's in the service of joy. It's in the service of the incarnation, because that's what it's all about.
What pops to mind right now is almost like ancestors. I said earlier I was supposed to be somebody. I was supposed to be one grandmother, but I was really the other. So is this anything to do with that? That all of these people that came before make up that psyche?
You bet. Yes. The generations have left their mark on us.
That makes up.
Yes. Yes. That is one way to look at this. And therefore we can understand at that level. I mean, if you want to think about it in terms of generations.
That just popped to mind.
Yes.
That just hit me.
Absolutely. The idea that it's a little overwhelming to the ego to have to relate to some of this. Sure it is. I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
As an aside, I joined a writing group to make myself start writing down sort of an autobiography
Oh, outstanding. Well,
about the time this popped up. I did not continue because I've had 3 surgeries since then, and I fell down and had a concussion. So I was not able to continue, partly out of fear and partly because I was legitimately not
right. Feeling well.
feeling well.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of fear.
Well, here we are.
Yeah,
Yeah. To
yeah,
begin,
we
to
really
begin.
are.
Yeah. This,
Yeah.
you're,
I don't want to write an autobiography, but I want to write stories and stuff in little vignettes about my life. That's what the motivation for that
yes.
writing group was about, to force me to do it. That's interesting. Yeah.
Oh, I think we're on to something. You know, the plunge into an autobiography is daunting. Yeah, it just is when we start really digging in and reviewing our lives, because some of the less savory moments come to mind.
Sure.
Or some of the things that we regret, or some of the things that we're ashamed of, they begin to bubble up that we hadn't thought about in ages and ages. And yeah, I can
Could that be
understand.
the room to room, a reference sort of to a
You
room to room,
bet.
since it's all
You
a gigantic house?
yes. Yes.
That I'll have to go to room to room.
Yes. Yes. I, I'm I'm all about that. I think that's right. I think that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yes. All right, we're getting somewhere. Okay.
You believe it.
Now, so then the next thing that happens, you can we go to the part where you do find a person to relate to?
Well, that's the next
Okay.
part of the dream. I walk into a room and there's a woman about my age sitting on a couch
Okay.
alone.
And you join her.
Yeah, I go up and sit down beside her.
And so there's an encounter with at least one aspect of yourself
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't know. And guess what? She's your age.
She's my age.
Mm-hmm. And do you find out anything about her, or do you recall?
No, we just had this, not that I can remember. All I remember is I sat down with her. We had a really good, meaningful conversation, and everything's going great. And I felt comfortable. And all of a sudden, she says, "Oh, I've got to go." And she gets up and leaves me sitting on the couch.
Okay. And then she leaves.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
And I start wandering around again.
So this, I mean, she's a shadow as well.
Right?
Okay. The
But
general, go ahead.
I think probably a good shadow because I felt like we were really relating.
Yes. And
But
that's
she,
what I was, yeah, that was going to say that this demonstrates your ability to relate to aspects of the unconscious in a meaningful way. In a meaningful way. As a kind of rule of thumb, we do look at characters of our own, of our same gender, as shadow. I don't think I said that before, but
no,
so, and so we've identified at least 3 shadows so far. The hostess of the party, your cousin Joy, and this woman have all been shadow figures, and they've all been positive. Okay. And you've been able to relate to them, especially her, in a very meaningful way. So at least this little piece of the dream demonstrates you are able to do this. You can do this. It's been scary, but you can do it. All right. Then what happens after she leaves? You start wandering again. And
I
then what
start
happens?
wondering. And then I see my cousin and her husband standing in a group, a small group, and I walk over to that group.
Okay.
And there is a couple in that group that I've met somewhere that I really like and are very friendly and really neat couple. Very, very nice couple. He's telling jokes.
Okay. I'm going to give them their own page.
I think they need their own
Uh-huh.
page.
So
But
here is this couple,
mhm,
and you really like them,
mhm. Everybody likes them.
and they're neat, you said.
Mhm.
And again, here's that couple motif where it's the coming together of opposites. And
Right.
this looks really great.
Mhm.
Okay. So you like them, they're really neat, everyone likes them.
Mhm.
Okay. And then what happens?
Well, he's telling jokes, and everybody in the group's laughing and enjoying his jokes.
Okay, let's stop with that and let's take a moment out to talk about jokes. What are jokes?
Things that make you laugh.
Any other ideas around jokes? What?
Well, my father was a jokester. He could tell jokes. He could tell jokes one after another. He could either tell ugly jokes and people would laugh that would normally be offended. In fact, everybody used to say that my dad could tell the dirtiest joke in the world and make the most uptight woman in the room laugh. He could tell he was a real he could have been on television. He was so wonderful at telling jokes and stories that are like jokes.
Mhm. So he was very good at this,
He was a master at that.
master at
Absolutely
this.
a master at that. I mean, all these years since he's been dead, if you run across anybody that knew him, they
Yeah.
talk about his jokes and him telling jokes and how funny he was.
Oh gosh, this is so interesting to me. This whole little interlude here about telling jokes at a party. So obviously, I mean, from your telling, people are having a really good time at this heavenly banquet.
Yeah, this little group was anyway.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
some of them would started telling jokes.
And did this man at all remind you of Dad or
Not at all.
okay.
I don't know. No, I don't know that man. I just
Okay.
knew that everybody liked him, and I'd met them before, and I liked him. But no, he wasn't
Wasn't okay.
wasn't like my dad at all. He was just
Okay.
telling jokes,
Hmm.
and everybody was laughing. And then other people in the group started telling jokes, which is kind of unusual for a party, I thought. But that's what happened. That's what was going on. Unusual for that sort of party.
Okay. As opposed to just standing around sipping
Conversation. Yeah.
your drink and chit chatting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This was different for me.
Okay. So let's pause for a second though and talk about when opposite gender folks show up in a dream. When men show up in a woman's dream, it can refer to the masculine aspect within a woman's personality.
Mhm.
And what do I mean by that? And this is general teaching. What do I mean by that? I mean the ability to get things done in the world, the ability to think logically and rationally, the ability to make a plan or to think of a goal to achieve, make a plan to achieve the goal, and then have the energy to execute the plan. And also to establish and hold boundaries. All of that belongs on the masculine side.
Okay.
And there's more, but for the purposes of our discussion, and every woman needs some of those traits, or needs a little bit of all of that in order just to get by in the world. We just need those masculine attributes. Everybody needs those masculine attributes, and they're not exclusive to men. We also run a risk of having too few of those attributes or too many of those, or overdevelop those attributes in such a way on either side it doesn't serve us well. When this is balanced, it serves us beautifully. So I just wanted to insert that little bit of teaching. Let's remind ourselves that this guy is a masculine aspect, and there is a special name for that in a woman's personality, and it is an animus. Yes, he is animus. And and I want to say all of that because in a minute he plays a big part in this dream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have to hang on to him. But I do think it's significant that this reminds you of this. Yeah, of dad. You said you are a father's daughter. Mm-hmm. And father's daughters, and I am one as well. So father's daughters run a real risk of having too much of this. Mm-hmm. We just do. We end up valuing that part of ourselves over the nurturing part of ourselves. And we could talk the rest of the day about that. I want to lay the groundwork for what's about to happen about that. Okay, so, and I will contribute to this by saying this is feeling like a good time. It's feeling pleasant. It's feeling like play. It's playful. I mean, it's got a playful, in my version of your dream, it's got a playful quality to it. So and it does have a relational aspect. You know, you're standing around sharing mm-hmm. funny stories or sharing jokes. So there's a community kind of feeling, at least among this little group.
Was.
Yeah. And you are included, and mm-hmm. joy is there. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's where we are. Mm-hmm. And then what happens?
Well, since other people were telling little jokes, I'd heard a really funny little joke. It wasn't an ugly joke. It was just a funny little joke. No bad words, nothing offensive about it. It was just one of those that makes the punchline made you laugh. And it was perfect for that group. It was appropriate for that group. And I thought it would make me feel included. That they would laugh at my joke and it would be good.
Yeah. Okay. It was a cute, funny, appropriate the right word?
Yeah, totally appropriate.
Okay.
Not even a mild anything offensive about that joke. It was like almost like a knock joke. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Totally appropriate. Yeah. Could have been told to children. It didn't matter.
And so this impulse to be included mm-hmm. in the group and to tell the joke, and it's just got all this feel good around it so far.
It was wonderful. Yeah, I felt like, wow, I can participate in this group without even knowing anybody's name. I could, I've got something that will make them at least like me or feel positive toward me.
Yes, the participation in it. And then we get the twist. Yeah. What happens?
Yeah.
What happens? You're telling the joke.
and I get ready to say the punchline. And, you know, when I talk with my hands, I get animated, and I'm all ready to tell the punchline. And the guy, he actually slammed his hand over my mouth tight and pulled me, physically dragged me out of the group into the crowd of people. I mean, it was very physical, very, you know, very, I mean, he manhandled me. I mean, it was like slamming over my mouth. And I mean, very physical, very, very, yeah.
Okay. Tell me what's a punchline.
That's how you end something on a positive note, usually, no matter what a punch, well, of course, they can be negative too, but that's sort of like the surprise ending, maybe.
And what happens is a real punchline. It's a surprise ending to this
So it was
dream.
a surprise ending, okay.
So I don't know how to put this, but the dissonance, you know, when we're telling a joke, the little joke story's going in some direction, and then we get the punchline, which is, you know, the twist, if you will.
So
that
and I
they're,
don't know how to pronounce it. It is a punchline.
yes,
And what you thought, yeah.
Right. And so that's a good point there, Dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
Is the punchline is supposed to do what? Hit us.
Oh, yeah.
And there's something about that in human beings makes us laugh. Mm-hmm. That twist, that surprise ending, that we weren't expecting to go there. We went this way. That somehow makes us laugh. Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to see the echo here, that this is a punchline, that you're about to tell the punchline, but the whole dream is a punchline, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, what we just said about the Animus, Mr. Animus here, what has Mr. Animus done to you?
He shut me up.
Okay.
Abruptly shut me up.
So the hard question we have to ask is, how has your own masculine aspect grabbed you and sort of hijacked you? Mm-hmm. So that might be,
that's the question.
That's the question. And that's the food for your meditation. Mm-hmm. I would ask myself, how did my own masculine aspect hijack me or capture me and kept me from saying something? Instead, my Animus said it.
In a terrible way. He said, if you go on, mm-hmm. as he dragged me, he said, I know that joke, I know that punchline. And he pulled me back into where I didn't want to go with all the people I didn't know, and told me the punchline, which was vile. I don't remember it in the dream, but it was vile.
Okay.
Really nasty punchline. It worked, but it wasn't, it was horrible. And he said, right, really loud, like, right, question mark. And I just nodded because I didn't know what to do.
All right. So here,
I just couldn't say anything. I just kind of nodded and woke up.
This is so Animus in us. And please, I hasten to add that I am more guilty of this than anybody I know, is the I know it all aspect, the Animus aspect that thinks it knows it all. Mine is as big as Texas, I promise you. I have irritated and annoyed more people with, I know, I know what that is. Let me tell you, I know what that is. It can be an animus characteristic. If we get possessed by that animus instinct of, I know, let me show you what I know. I know that. Okay. So I just wanted to make that,
Yeah.
And all of us are capable of this. It's not, okay. All right. So now, though, let's get to this distressing thing that he did, which was that dirty, filthy punchline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was quite the opposite of the way you described the cute, funny little appropriate joke you were trying to tell.
It was the opposite extreme.
Indeed. And this was the man telling that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the indication. All right. First, I have to say, dreams speak in a hyperbolic way. They go over the top
Mm-hmm.
to get our attention.
Mm-hmm.
And while in waking life, I can't imagine this ever coming out of your mouth, we have to look at this symbolically,
Mm-hmm.
meaning when our animus aspect takes us over, we end up saying things that are not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Or upon reflection, I don't know. Do you have a sense of how you felt at this point when he's uttered this terrible punchline?
Horrified.
Horrified.
I mean, I devastated. Devastated is the better word because that wasn't what I intended. And for that to happen, I mean, I was actually speechless because he looked at me and said, right, with a question mark. He gave the punchline and then he said, right, with like asking me. And I couldn't say anything. I just kind of nodded my head like he was right. I agreed with him, but I couldn't say anything. I agreed by nodding my head. I agreed with him. And I woke up.
So, again, looking at this as a manifestation of our own animus aspect or our own masculine side
Mm-hmm.
that can take us over, and we end up saying what we did not intend. And we're kind of helpless in the wake of it. I also think it's very significant that he dragged you
Mm-hmm.
into the center of the room. I think on the first telling you said it was in the middle of the room.
He dragged me into the middle of the crowd. Yeah.
In the middle of the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah. Back, yeah. It's kind of like they were over on the side, sort of together.
Mm-hmm.
And he just drags me out in the middle of all those people. I didn't know.
A reference to the middle is significant. A reference to centers and circles and the number 4 are often to be dragged to the center of anything is to be brought to our center, to the center of ourselves, to be shown something in a dream. And so the fact that he made this big effort to get you into the center and then did this thing is again highlighting how important it is, if you will. It's a way of highlighting how important it is because it's now in the center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is any of this ringing true for you?
I don't know. I know
Okay.
that sounds funny, but I don't. It all rings true, but I can't get it in context of the way I live. But I'm
Okay.
sure I these are it's telling me maybe things I don't know about myself. Maybe I've got to go here and really think about this more.
I think that's right. I do. Now, there's something about this, though, that's couched in a spiritual search or a
Yeah, I know.
spiritual
I
something.
know.
And I think we do, in the course of our spiritual journey, have to come to terms with this part of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of marriage of the sacred and the profane, if you will. And both are necessary. I know that it's not conventional thinking, but to
Yeah.
to be able to acknowledge the the sacred as well as the profane that's within all of us is required to.
It's the tension of the opposites, isn't it?
Yes, yes, yes.
It really is.
It really is. It
Really is.
really is. Yep. And you're to be willing to even look at that is a significant step.
Synchronicity here. A priest, Episcopal priest I know, yesterday on his Facebook page said even Jesus had to do his work.
Indeed.
And I remember it hit me hard. I didn't go look at his sermon. I didn't read anything else. I just saw that. And that somehow feels connected with this.
Yes. I'm with you.
Somehow.
Do you think we got anywhere?
Oh, I think we got way. Yeah, absolutely. We got somewhere.
I do too. I love this
really,
dream.
really this is amazing to me. And so much I want to this is really amazing to me.
I am delighted to hear that. This is just the beginning of this dream.
I think so. That's what I wanted to say. I think this is just like opening up something bigger.
Yeah, I do too.
Much bigger.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that note.
Yeah, that, especially about that speechless part.
Yeah.
I need to find my voice through, and maybe through this stream, I can find a part of my voice. Deep voice.
Yes.
Voice, inner voice.
Yes. Your authentic voice, not Animus talking through you, but your voice.
My voice.
Yes. Yes. I'm down with that. And I think this dream speaks to me so much because I have a real Animus problem myself. So this dream really is speaking to me as well. And I'm so grateful that you brought this dream. Okay, now, what will you do to honor the dream or to continue to work on the dream?
I think I need to commit out loud to start on some of those chapters in my life. Writing chapters, the chapters of my life. Just chapters. I'm thinking and not so much in terms of ages or but because I moved a lot and I was an only child, I've had to begin again often and feel you know what I'm saying? Every time I've ever felt comfortable, we moved and everything was taken away. So I think maybe put all that down, which I've never looked at before in those terms.
So write kind of like episodes.
Yeah, like the chapters. By being little, moving to Alabama, moving to Virginia, moving to North Carolina, moving back here, getting married, getting divorced, starting all over from scratch as in a career because I'd never had a job before.
Yes.
All those sort of I've had a lot of big chapters in my life.
Right. So
And I
the
think it
moves.
relates somehow to this.
Oh, absolutely. The moves
Because
are,
I've needed a strong animus.
yes, yes, yeah,
But when do you let it go or balance it? Find that balance. And
right.
this is kind of what I think I need to. This will be maybe a journey with that strong, very negative animus. Because I
Mm-hmm.
take the one in this dream is very negative.
Mm-hmm.
Find out where he came from, maybe, and how he got in control.
What's fascinating about that is how attractive he looked at first.
Good thought. Yeah.
And I will say this, our animus aspect feels good when it gives us some kind of authority and power as we move through our lives. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it feels good. And so it seems very attractive
Mm-hmm.
until it's not.
Mm-hmm. It's
Okay.
all
So
balance, isn't it?
yes. So get to know that animus aspect. And a way to do that is to practice a little bit of, you can journal with this, you can name him, journal with him, and do what we talk about as active imagination, where you kind of get back into the dream a little bit, or kind of pick up where the dream left off, and maybe write another ending to it, or what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next? You know, these are ways to get back in the dream and kind of get to know him.
Thinking about him, maybe as I write the chapters of my life, think about how that animus energy came, where it was in my different phases of my life.
Brilliant.
I think that
Absolutely
might
brilliant.
help too. And when
Mm-hmm.
did he get stronger
Mm-hmm.
than the feminine?
Yes.
What where the sacrifice was, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. One
That
way of
yeah.
expressing that is, when did he serve you
Mm-hmm.
and when did he not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And we're talking about him as some he out there. Our inner masculine aspects often does get projected onto the men in our lives. So there is an inner and an outer aspect of of that.
Sure.
Um, so okay, how you feel?
I feel very, very, very positive. And that's a good feeling for me because by feeling positive, it's like it's going to continue. It's like the start of a different journey. I don't know how to describe this, but I feel like I feel really, really good. I feel positive. I think this dream has been a major eye-opening, soul-opening opportunity for me. Which is funny because I didn't think it was going to be much there. Not anything like the depth it is.
This was some really good work, and
I think it
oh,
was really good work.
and and Dreamer, thanks for being brave, because this touches on some deep subjects,
Yeah,
and it's very brave to talk about.
that's that positive animus gives me courage. But how do you pull the reins in?
Yeah. Yes, right.
The power.
So I'm going to thank you so much for doing this with me today. And anyway, I hope this dream continues to speak to you and if you ever want to do a follow-up, let me know.
I will. Maybe I better ask his homework for a follow-up dream.
Excellent. Excellent homework.
Okay.
Thank you again.